Welcome to Facts for Real videos. They claimed it to be the most cutting-edge technologically. These were the main causes. They claimed it was unsinkable, and when it did, they created a movie about it. However, the Titanic disaster is not the only significant shipwreck, and there have been occurrences even worse than the tragedy of the Titanic, one of which occurred on April 27, 1865. Daily trips by the Sultana steamboat between St. Louis and New Orleans included both passengers and freight. It was a very substantial wooden boat with 3 decks that was almost twice as wide as it was long at 70 feet. The ship, which was about the size of a basketball court, could accommodate 350 passengers. Yet, on that tragic day, April 23rd, there were almost 2,000 individuals there. She was departing from New Orleans on a normal voyage. Something was wrong with the boiler when it malfunctioned, so the ship stopped in Vicksburg for port repairs. James Cass Mason, the ship's captain, learned of a fantastic opportunity to make a lot of money, and he agreed to take it. All he had to do was move a sizable group of former captives to the north. There was an issue, though, because fixing the boiler took a long time. Mason feared that one of his rivals would win the position. He therefore made the decision to sail notwithstanding the issue. Instead of making a significant repair, the ship patched up the boiler holes and welcomed all the former captives. There were therefore too many passengers and a faulty boiler. The river was not in the finest of shape due to a lack of lifeboats. In addition, the captain declined to put the former detainees in the hold. So, they were all traveling with regular passengers. A shipwreck had a good likelihood of happening. But, the excessive drive to increase one's wealth was stronger. The Sultana set sail and embarked on a journey. One of the largest Mississippi floods in recorded history began at this time, and the river spilled for 2 days. Due to the flood, the water level has risen several feet across shores. When the ship traveled in the opposite direction, the trees on the shore vanished and were reduced to only their tops. On April 26th evening, this strong current was making the boiler work too hard. As the Sultana reached Memphis, Tennessee, they placed 200 passengers and 120 tons of sugar on board. By midnight, she started to feel terribly heavy. The ship kept going. Around 1 in the morning, the captain embarked on a perilous voyage to load a consignment of coal into barges. At 2 a.m., the vessel departed from the barge because the damaged boiler could not hold up. The load abruptly detonated. Few people survived the Sultana, which was located only 7 miles north of Memphis. The issue that day was that travelers attempting to flee the flames dove into a chilly river with a high current. The Sultana tragedy is regarded as the most terrible shipwreck in American history. Several reports claim that it is still unknown how many people did not survive. The range of this number was 961 to 1800. People shouldn't be surprised that hardly anyone is familiar with this tale. The Titanic disaster had far more survivors, and everyone knew about it. Nonetheless, the Sultana sank 12 days into a prominent event. They still hadn't fully recovered from the news that the country had lost Abraham Lincoln prior to the shipwreck. Thus, the tragedy of the Sultana received little notice. By historical standards, numerous tragedies occurred recently. Among them happened in 2002. The Senegalese ferry, the Ferry Legula, carried passengers who traded in mangoes and palm oil mostly around the coast of Dakar twice a week. Thanks to cutting-edge rescue tools and dependable repair services, it performed daily excursions and never encountered serious issues. However, the ship's crew eventually found a problem and sank. Legula remained inoperable in port for nearly a year while it was being repaired. However, following poor maintenance, it didn't receive high-quality service. The last trip taken by the ferry left on September 26, 2002. Legula sailed between southern Senegal and Dakar before turning toward the Gambia at 11 p.m. There, a powerful storm developed and the wind generated tremendous waves. Yet, this wasn't crucial for the large passenger ship as long as there weren't too many people on board. It was planned for the established Norm Majula to accommodate 500 people, but had a lot more individuals. On that day, the ship experienced serious issues as a result of 2 passengers' poor repairs and a powerful storm. Yet, the primary cause of the shipwreck was the fact that the Legula was designed exclusively for coastal waters. Nevertheless, on that particular day, when the ship sailed away from the shore, large waves began to rock it. Eventually, the ship's deck began to sink, and its lower portions remained above the sea like an iceberg. The guests in the cabin slid off the ceiling and became disoriented. The ship's hull was flooded with water, although there were no holes or other damages. The ship stood in a crooked position for some hours on the lower decks. When the water started to leak through the deck and hold, the boat started to sink. No one came to save the passengers despite the warm ocean. Only a few people managed to survive after waiting almost 4 days to be rescued. For ships, the Philippines is a particularly hazardous location. There are thousands of islands in this area. Ships can run aground and sustain hull damage in a large area with shallow water due to reefs and hazards. The 20th of September 1987. It was one of the worst tragedies in the history of navigation. A Philippine passenger ferry there, the Dona Paz, departed from one of the islands and traveled in the direction of Manila. The ocean was calm, the sun was shining, and visibility was excellent. Yet, for some reason, the crew members missed it. The two ships collided at a moderate pace as the tanker Vector drew near to them. The collision wasn't that powerful. The donut paws crashed into the cargo hold of the Vector, which was where tons of oil were stored, which was an issue. The result was that it spilled all over the ocean, and when a spark got through, the two ships caught fire and filled with water. Only a handful of passengers survived as both ships sank in a matter of seconds. On September 27, 1854, the passenger ship Arctic traveled from Liverpool to New York, where it met with calamity. As the fog rolled in, visibility became quite poor. Out of the mist, a second boat emerged. White Vesta, a French steamship, is hazy. The French vessel was smaller, but the ships were sufficiently close to one another that a collision was imminent. How it appeared to the captain of the Arctic. While he was looking at the other ship, the captain gave the order to sail as swiftly as possible to the shore as Vesta had sustained significant damage. However, due to the flood, the ship's engines ceased functioning. Then the crew of the ship began lowering lifeboats while still carrying women and children. Rescuers discovered lifeboats with people on board. Surprisingly, just 87 out of 400 people, 22 passengers and members of the C-5 crew, survived. There were only adult men there. Captain of the ship managed to hang on to the debris and survive. All newspapers referred to this incident as one of the worst and most egregious tragedies in the annals of navigation. Survivors came in for criticism. The crew members have been accused of breaking the law ever since they failed to save women and children. The safety of passengers ought to come first, followed by that of sailors. But, because none of them were held accountable, shipwrecks continue to happen today. Fortunately, radar and modern navigation technologies have reduced their number compared to earlier times. Yet no technology can ensure there won't be any severe weather or other emergencies. Something nobody can predict, and that's all for today. Thus, if the video satisfied your interest, please like and share it with your friends, or if you want more, just click on these videos and stay on the Facts for Real videos.